Okay, so for example 5, we have another word problem. So it says the power in watts produced by a windmill is proportional to the cube of the wind speed V. So it's saying power in watts produced by a windmill is proportional to the cube of the wind speed V. So that's the information we need to write our equation. So when it says proportional, proportional works just like when it says varies directly. So in the last problem we had that varies directly, remember that meant we were going to use multiplication. When it says varies indirectly, that's when you're going to use division. Well, other than that, so we're going to be using k times whatever the value. If it said varies indirectly, you would do k divided by. So proportional means the same thing as vary directly. So the power produced by a windmill is proportional. So this does mean equal. So power is proportional. You always have this k because it says proportional. We're going to do multiplication. Now this is a little different. The cube of the wind speed. So if you're saying the square of something or the cube of something, we're saying that v to the third power. So this is the equation that we're going to be using. The power is proportional, so we use multiplication, k times v to the third power. Okay, so the cube root is the cube. So then it says if a wind of 10 miles per hour generates 15 watts of power. So we're going to stop there. Come down here and write this down. The wind, so V is 10 miles per hour, and the power is 15 watts. So we can use this information right here to figure out what K is going to be. So I'm going to plug in. P is 15. We don't know K, and V is 10. Okay, so if we use our calculator, solving for K, we can do 15 divided by 10 to the third power. So K should be 0.015. Okay, so now, instead of my formula just being P equals K times V to the third, we know the power of the K is 0.015 V to the third. So this will be the formula that we're going to use now. So then we'll keep reading. How much power is generated by winds of 20, 40, and 80 miles per hour? So we actually have to plug in 3 times. So they're saying, we'll just take 20 first. So we're saying when V is 20, what is P? So we're going to plug in. P equals 0.015 times 20 to the third power. So you just plug into your calculator. So you should get 120, and that's going to be watts. So when the speed is 20, that power is 120. So then it said when the speed is 40, I'm trying to figure out P. So we're going to plug in. So you can use your calculator. So when you plug in 40, you get 960 watts. And then we have one more. They want us to figure out when the wind is 80 miles per hour, what is the power? So we're going to plug in 80. And the power there should be 7,680 watts. Okay, so the key to these word problems, you're going to read the first part that gives you the equation with K. If it says proportional or says varies directly or direct variation, you're going to do multiplication between the K and another variable. If it says inversely, that's when you'll use division instead of multiplication. Then you're going to take the next piece of information they give you, plug that in to figure out what K is. Then once you get K, now you have a new equation, and instead of having a K, you actually have the variable, or the coefficient there. Then it's going to give you some more information and ask you to find something that's missing, and you're just going to plug it in. Normally it only gives you one of these, but this gave you 3. Okay, so the last problem is very, very similar. So we're going to do it the same way. So it says the power in watts produced by a windmill is proportional to the cube of the wind speed. So this is almost the same thing as we just saw. So power produced, so P for power, is proportional. So if it's proportional, we're going to use that multiplication. So K times the cube of the wind speed, so K times V to the third. So that's what we're starting out with. So then it says if a wind of 15 miles per hour generates 20 watts of power. So we're going to stop there. It's saying if V is 15 miles per hour and P is 20 watts, using that information we can figure out what K is going to be. So we're going to plug in P and plug in V. So we can figure out K by dividing. So K should be 0.006. So once you've figured out K, well now we have our new equation, P equals 0.006 V to the third. Then it says, how much power is generated by winds of 50 miles per hour? So how much power, so P is what we're trying to find, and V is 50 miles per hour. So now we're going to use this equation. We don't know P, but we know V is 50, and we're just going to plug in. So we should get the power is 750 watts. Okay, so once again, word problems. You're going to set up an equation with K. If it's proportional or says directly, you're going to do multiplication. If it says inversely or indirectly, you're going to use division here. Okay, so like if this would have said indirectly or inversely, this would have said P equals K divided by V to the third. Okay, so just pay attention to that. I'll mark it out, it's not what we have. Then you're going to have some information that they tell you both variables here, P and V. You're going to use that to figure out what K is. Make yourself a new equation where it does not have K. Then answer the question, how much power? So we were missing power, but we know the V here, the wind speed, and you can plug in to get the power. So that's how these word problems are going to work pretty much every time.